I move that we act favorably on Article 9, a simple motion. That's what you asked for, a simple motion. I move that we vote favorably on Article 9, and I'd appreciate a second.
There is a positive vote. On this Board of Selectmen have recommended a positive vote. Are you endorsing theirs? I'm not sure what we're voting on there. All right, whatever. I think the selectmen have the main motion because it's not a spending article. It's a asking us to establish a fund. Okay. Court.
I'm not going to take a lot of time to repeat what I just said, but it seems to me the creation of a new fund at this time is premature. Let's give this a year to see how this worked out. Let's get a couple of other groups within the town involved in the process, be it the Capital Budget Committee or such. And I recommend a no action vote on this article. Thank you.
You get on the list, Mr. McCabe. But Mr. McCabe, there is a positive vote action by the Board of Selectmen on this. Mr. McCabe, I'm not sure what your motion is. Is it in substitute for, Can I finish? Mr. McCabe, is it a substitute of the Selectmen's main motion, which is recommending we establish a fund?
My motion is a substitute motion for Article 9 in the special town meeting, that we vote favorably on Article 9. My understanding is it was favorable.
That's an endorsement of the Selectmen's motion, sir.
I'm not talking about the Selectmen's motion. I'm talking about
Put it in writing,
Finance
please.
Committee recommendation under Article 9. And
Put it in writing,
my
please.
understanding that the motion is in order. I haven't heard
Mr.
anybody say it
McCabe,
wasn't.
please put it in writing, bring it up forth so I know what you're having us vote on.
You said you would accept simple motions. How simple can you get?
I have to read it. Ms. LaCourte, you're next. I have to read your motion, Mr. McCabe. I have you, Mr. Peluso. Adam Oster.
Annie LaCourte, Precinct 15. So, again, I'm not sure who to direct the question to, Mr. Moderator.
Yep.
But I would like to talk a little bit about how we might account for the rebates that we receive without actually creating this fund, and whether or not it would be possible to then set a policy about what percentage of those rebates might, by rule of thumb, be reinvested in further energy efficiency efforts.
Why don't you tell us what your thoughts are, and then we'll...
Well, I guess my first question would be to our esteemed comptroller as to whether or not we're able to tag each of these transactions as it arrives as a cash rebate, as having been an energy rebate, so we can add them all up at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, Ruth, you have to come forward, introduce yourself. Although.
Ruth Lewis, Comptroller. Chapter 44, Section 53 says any revenue received by the town goes into the general fund of the town unless there's a specific law that says otherwise.
Yes, but we don't have any way to further identify those transactions as having been received, like what their source was. Their source was a energy rebate.
It would, well, the energy rebate would just be local receipts unless we had the special fund, but it would have to be special legislation.
We don't have like a second field on the record where we can just identify where it came from or that it's got another category?
Well, we would have a special revenue account so we could account for it, yes, in the general fund.
Okay, that's
yes.
what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
So in our chart of accounts, we could just
Oh, yes. So we could say
segregate them, so
how
we
much
would be
we
able to
received
say
for the
this
year.
is excellent. And then to the chair of the Finance Committee, my request is, were the seed money that we just voted to be successful, and were we to be able to track the percentage of rebates we were getting, would it be something the Finance Committee would consider, given that you voted not to do this fund, that you would consider having a rule of thumb sort of similar to other rules of thumb that we have that says that we'll reinvest a certain percentage of these rebates in energy efficiency projects that are going through the capital plan?
So you're asking what their future policy is going to be?
I'm asking them whether this is what he has in mind when he says we don't need another special fund.
Mr. Tosti?
I really can't start setting policy for something that hasn't come before the full Finance Committee. The Finance Committee's position is we want to wait, see how it's created, see how much rebates are coming in, see how we can make this a fund which takes in other players within it, what can go to the capital budget process, what can go differently. So I can't really answer if we do this, we'll do that. Somebody will have to put together a whole package, put it in the warrant, come back to us, and we'll consider it. We're always open-minded and considering. We're just getting this sort of fear in the back of our mind that more and more money gets tracked away from the general fund that comes before you in the budgets. That's why we're not ready at this point to go in this direction.
Okay. So I'm going to actually recommend that you support the Finance Committee's motion on this, because I think that it's possible for us to achieve what we want to achieve here, which is to have funds to reinvest in these kind of energy efficiency projects without having a special segregated fund. It's unclear to me, and perhaps that's another question to either the Finance Committee or the town manager, how we would move funds out of said specially created fund, or all the rebates to go in there, should we need the money for some other purpose or want to add it to free cash or whatever. We may or may not want to reinvest all of these rebates. They look like they're pretty substantial to me in future projects. And I'm trying to retain flexibility here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carmen?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dean Carmen, Precinct 20, and a member of the Finance Committee. I would ask you to vote no action on this article. I think, at least through my thinking, I'll walk you through my thinking when I heard these two articles at the Finance Committee and how it worked out for me. To me, voting yes on Article 8 and voting no on Article 9 became a reasoned compromise. On one side, you have, we'll even look at town meeting. We have Mr. Foskett, Mr. Loretti, and others who spoke and said, this really isn't a good idea for the town because it moves appropriating funds out of established policy. It takes money away from the general fund, and we don't really get to track it. Town manager's position when he came before the Finance Committee was that there were some, opportunistic expenditures that he could make with this money, like he said, that would save the town money over the long term. And so what voting yes on 8 and voting no on 9 does is it gives him $200,000 in a one-time opportunity to actually prove that. Whether he spends money over a year or 2 or 3 or 4, he has an opportunity to prove it. Now, look, $200,000 is real money to me. I'm sure it's real money to most everyone here. I'm not taking that as a light amount, but when it's $200,000 one time, you can sort of sit here and say, all right, I can justify it in my head in the context of a large $100-something million budget. When it comes to establishing a fund for something that hasn't been proven and having the money sort of go into this fund and we don't know how the results were, or there is no accountability for the results to move on to a longer term project, that's sort of where I had the trouble buying into it. So I would ask you to vote no action on this article. Sort of like a lot of the speakers said before, it's not voting against energy efficiency in this case. It's just voting to get some more evidence and some proof that this works. And then if it does, 2-3 years from now, we can vote for it again. We can vote for it or we could not vote for it. Thank you.
Mr. Peluso?
I'm Ted Peluso from Precinct 6, I guess. Very interesting to listen to this discussion. And I'll summarize it very simply. It's a matter of trust. It sounds like the capital projects, which we approve for $4, $5, $9 million, very few questions asked. The questions that we answered doesn't change a thing, right? So now we got a brand new town manager. We're paying him $200,000. Think about it.
something.
We're paying him 175 plus some fringe benefits, et cetera, right? Now, this town manager says, I would like to create a fund. And you know what? I think we ought to support him. And the reason I think we ought to support him is very simple. By what stretch of the imagination does anybody in this room believe that the Finance Committee, the Capital Projects Planning Committee, the town meeting is any more qualified to determine how the money is being spent than the Energy Working Group? So, to me, it's a control issue. It's a trust issue and a control issue. And you know, there's a hell of a lot of control in this town. And if you don't trust this guy to run a $200,000 revolving fund, my God, you're giving him about $60 million to run? So I urge you to trust the town manager. It's that simple.
Mr. Oster?
I'm Adam Oster at Precinct 3, and I don't just live in Arlington. I get to work here, and I work for an energy consulting company that has been instrumental in a lot of policy decisions over the years related to energy efficiency programs, the ones that are done by utilities. Our clients are mostly consumer advocates and attorneys general in the different states. And energy efficiency has a reputation as being sort of an insanely great deal. We say that it's better than a free lunch. It's a lunch they pay you to eat. And with these kind of numbers, you can see why that is. And unfortunately, very often when legislators or regulators set up these programs, because they're being cautious, they cap them, and there is a lot of lost opportunity as a result, because there is a lot of cost-effective energy efficiency investment, which means stuff that would save you more money than it costs, that has to be foregone because there's a cap on the amount that can be done. My question about this article in particular is, I was looking at the numbers for the rebates. It looks like it's around maybe a third of the costs, and so maybe between $60,000 and $80,000 on that $200,000 that we just voted. If we don't authorize this so that these rebates are not available for this purpose, in the next year, is that going to cause a problem? If you had known that we wouldn't authorize it, supposing that we don't, would you have asked for more money? Is that a clear question?
Adam Chapdelaine, Town Manager. I wouldn't have requested a larger sum of money. I would just answer that it poses a challenge when rebates cannot be utilized to pay for the project. It can create a funding problem. In the example of those variable speed drives, well, I'll take a step back. Some vendors on larger projects are willing to accept the rebate themselves for the implementation of the project. And if a vendor was willing to do that, the town would pay their share less the rebate to the vendor with whatever existing appropriation for whatever project it was. However, if the vendor on a smaller project, or I guess any project, wasn't willing to put that sort of money on the line on their part, it can create a challenge in terms of having town funds available with that rebate going directly into the general fund and not being able to reimburse the expense account. So the amount of money that town meeting just approved will certainly allow us to do many of the things we have in our energy reduction plan, but the utilization of this energy conservation fund will remove some of the challenges of utilizing the rebates to their highest use.
Thank you. I guess I would just say that one of my concerns is that we not let any opportunities go by that are this good. And we're starting to develop a track record and some experience with this stuff. We saw some of the reports tonight. I assume after a year more under our belt with this money, we'll have a lot more opportunity to judge. And I would just say that I hope that the town will not be shy in requesting additional funds if they're needed, because otherwise, we lose.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Scott Smith, Precinct 5, move the question. On all issues.
On all issues, okay, thank you. We have a motion to terminate debate. All in favor, please say yes. Yes. Opposed? No. My opinion, it's a 2/3 vote. Okay. Mr. McCabe, did you put your motion in writing? Okay. Well, so your motion basically is you want favorable action on this. I mean, you made a motion. I have to know what you want us to vote on.
My motion is that we vote favorably on Article 9 in the special town meeting warrant. How simple can it be? It was seconded, and to the best of my knowledge, you did not rule it out of order.
I'm about to rule it out of order.
Let's vote. I've never seen so much nitpicking in 51 years. It's terrible.
I'm about to rule it out of order because I think it's in supplement to the main motion of the selectmen and not necessary. So I've ruled Mr. McCabe's motion out of order. We have before us a recommended vote of the Board of Selectmen. All in favor, please say yes. Yes. Opposed, say no. No. In my opinion, it's a negative vote. Okay. More than 5 people have arisen. All in favor of the recommended vote of the Board of Selectmen, please rise. Same tellers. Mr. Dunn, can you count up front? Five up front. Mr. Schlickman? 12 to my left. Mr. O'Connor? 14. Left center, right center, Mr. Tremblay? 17. Mr. McCabe? 19. All opposed, please rise. Mr. Dunn? 5. Oh, they canceled each other out. Mr. Schlickman? 19. Mr. O'Connor? 25. Mr. Tremblay? 25. Mr. McCabe? 12. The vote is in the negative. 67 for, 86 against. It's a negative.